The content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended for a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your doctor or other qualified health professionals with any questions you may have regarding your medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.
On today's episode, we will be answering some common questions floating on the internet about type 1 diabetes with diabetes educator Cheryl Nankivell. We're your hosts, Isabella and Sebastian Harris.
This is Life on the Level. If you're listening, you probably have or know someone with type 1 diabetes. We're here to give you the knowledge and encouragement so you can thrive. Join us as we dive into all things type 1, real experiences, expert insights, and practical strategies. There is so much misinformation online, especially quite potentially dangerous opinions on social media, even about ways that you should be looking after your health and your diabetes and what people found helpful for them and what people didn't find helpful for them. And while I think that's great and sometimes can be really useful, this illness is not one size fits all.
Yeah.
People use different amounts of medication, different types of insulin, different ways that they deal with their diet, and whatever works for you, works for you. And I think it's super important to make sure that when you're sourcing information, make sure that where you're sourcing it from is accurate and credible source.
And to help clear the air on common questions we've found online, we're going to chat with Cheryl Nankivell, who is a credentialed diabetes educator for Diabetes Australia. Hi Cheryl, welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling today?
Pleased to be here, Seb. Thanks for the invitation.
No, we're all good. We're happy to have a special guest on with us today because we have a few questions from people on the internet that have been asking around. We thought you might have some good advice on how to answer these questions.
I'll do my very best.
Thank you. So the first one is, I've been reading how people put their insulin in the fridge, and then I read the manual for my insulin, and it also said store them in the fridge. Haven't been doing this, but I've been keeping my insulin in a cool enough area and not in direct sunlight or hot areas. Is this okay?
Yeah, so insulin, the manufacturer's recommendations is that insulin that's not in use is stored in the fridge somewhere between 2 and 8 degrees generally, and that is to protect the integrity of the insulin. And 2, if you're using something to manage something like type 1 diabetes, you want to make sure there's no variabilities in your insulin. But once you've started using that pen or that vial, you can have that insulin out of the fridge for 28 days. So that's good to know when you're travelling and all of those sorts of things. So as long as it's kept under 27 degrees, it's good to go. Depending where you're travelling, because it can freeze, and that's why if you're travelling with it, you don't want to put it in the hold of the plane because it gets damn cold down there. And you can just literally take it with you. Again, if you're going into extremes, you need to be careful as well. When it's in the fridge, though, there's a couple of tricks that I think get people to think about. You don't want it against the back of the fridge because that can ice up, so that can be a coldest part of the fridge. So again, frozen insulin doesn't work properly. And 2, lots of that butter container or the cheese compartment.
That's where mine goes.
Yeah, in the side of the fridge is super handy.
Yeah.
But if you're anything like my family, they all come home, they're all grown, but they'll all come home and open the fridge and have a chat to me. So the temperature of the fridge can be quite variable. And 2, that part of the fridge is warmer because it's going to keep our butter soft as well. So that's the idea of them. So better for a stable temperature to really get the most out of your insulin storage on top of the crisper. So not in the crisper, but on top of the crisper, just away from the back of the fridge where no one can fiddle with it too much. And because cold air falls, it's really the most stable place in the fridge. And 2, if you've got the lid on it, lots of people don't put the lid back on their pens, but if you've got your lid on your pen, you're also keeping it out of the sunlight, and if you take your needle off of the pen, and I know they're all housekeeping things that people do off and on, but it will also protect the integrity of your insulin because you're actually closing off that vial, you're keeping it insulated and out of the sunlight as well.
Great. The second question that we've found online is, I get hot flashes often and I'm not sure what it's from. Could it be from my BGL? These hot flashes also make my blood sugars rise. Why?
So there's a couple of things I want to say there. Is one, that we always don't want to draw all of our health challenges or anything that happens with our bodies back to type 1 diabetes. So it's always really important to go and get some advice about hot flushes or flashes or whatever terminology you'd like to use, because they can be the result of something else going on with you. So that's the one most important thing that I've got to say about that question. Because a hot flash changes the way that neurotransmitters send signals to your body through other hormones, which are also secreted with other health challenges that we might have, it does have the capacity to change your glucose levels. It can make your body more insulin resistant when those neurotransmitters are secreted. So you can see those surge as well. So it's a little bit chicken and egg stuff as well. And two, we know with having the pure joy of being a woman, estrogen, progesterone, menopause, all of those things, and certainly our menstrual cycle can really muck up glucose levels and make them quite unpredictable. And we don't do things the same every month, every day either. And so that's why things can be variable month to month as well.
Awesome, thank you. Here's another one. I just got an insulin pump and I'm wondering where the best place to put it is. Should I try to always wear clothes with a pocket? I'm worried it will get caught on something.
Oh, this one is so relatable because dresses, cute outfits, out the window.
It's a challenge, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So pumps are really hardy. So it's not so much about the pump, it's about the infusion line and the cannula or the infusion site or set that you've got in, which becomes the thing that you need to protect the most, because those pumps, if anybody has seen little kids with pumps, they're trailing behind them. They are really, really quite tough and hardy medical devices.
I've never seen that actually, but that's...
Oh, yeah. It's
you
fun
see
to
that?
watch.
Okay, cool.
And you go, yeah, they are really hardy pieces of equipment. It's the stress on that cannula and the infusion set which can become the challenge. So really trying to think about the size of the infusion line that you're going to order for your infusion set can be something to think about, because they do come in different proprietary lengths, if you like. Tucking your pump on the inside, so even though it's got a clip, sort of putting it on the inside of your clothing so that the pump's against your body can also protect it from the line being stuck on door handles and all of those sorts of things as well. Keeping your lines too tucked and or curled, not curled up tightly, but sort of tighter against your body. They will probably protect your infusion set more than anything. The pumps are water resistant to a certain degree, generally right across the board, but sometimes moisture will get underneath the buttons sometimes. So if you're wearing it close to your body, even a little cotton sock, a little baby cotton sock or something like that can help absorb the moisture as well. But there's really no hard and fast rules about wearing an insulin pump. It's where you feel most careful. It's about your personality, if you like to be out loud and proud with your pump or you like to have it tucked away. The advantage of being a female is that sometimes you've got a very easy place that you can tuck that little pump away that no one's
Men have pockets though. Men have pockets in everything. Pockets. Why don't we have pockets?
There needs to be a revolution, Isabella.
Yeah,
we need to have pockets.
I have put my pump in some interesting places just for the fit. Just for the outfit, I've definitely done that.
Yes, I know that there's been a few people that have had really special occasions and they want to frock up. So they're literally they will buy a leg strap to put it.
Yeah, I've even heard that people alter their clothing. So they, get a pocket put in or so they can put the line through it. And I think that's really cool. I personally can't do that to all my clothing. I don't have the time for that. But yeah, I think that's another little life hack to it as well.
Yeah, well, my dad's got type 1 diabetes and he's 85, and what he does is he cuts a hole in the bottom of his pocket so he can
put the line through.
Yeah,
yeah. I've often thought about that. Yeah, because it would be
he doesn't
handy.
like the conversation. He doesn't like the conversation with people, so he just tucks it away so
doesn't
nobody knows. Doesn't want to talk.
Don't talk to me. Right. Another question online that we've found is, does not changing your finger pricker lancet each time you use it make any difference to the readings at all? Now, I know that they tell us to change these every single time, and I'm guilty of it.
Yep.
I don't. So,
and you're in the majority. Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons that it could possibly, not all the time, but if you're not changing your lancet regularly, you're going to get scar tissue, of course, on where you are pricking over and over again. Yeah. And then it requires more pressure to be able to get a blood sample as well.
Yeah.
And two, they are blunt after a few uses. if you look at them underneath a microscope, that's scary business. So when
gosh,
you're penetrating your skin,
You're putting your needles under a microscope? No, thank you.
yes. So I would really encourage you to, because skin's your first line of defense as well. And most certainly you want to protect that barrier. But really the squeezing through and blood having to come through that traumatized area, potentially, and I think it's only a really small risk, I must admit, but you can change the consistency, or, you can, a bit like when you graze your knee, you can get that clear serous ooze out of there because you're traumatizing that spot. Because you have to push it damn hard because you're using a blunt device.
Yeah.
So this is also a pretty interesting one, because I've often asked this question as well.
Really? Okay.
Yep. So for those who want to wear a CGM and also go in water, particularly in a hot tub or in a swimming pool, does the hot water or chlorine affect the CGM readings or other readings in general?
Yeah, or even the device.
Yeah.
Like, will it make the device less accurate?
Yeah, so it does have the potential to do that. I would say if you're planning a hot tub adventure, because certainly over 45 degrees, the pump isn't recommended that they go over those types of temperatures. I would say give yourself the opportunity to enjoy that hot tub. And hot tubs
Fully
are hotter than
submerge
45.
yourself.
100%. Go for it. Park that baby up for a little while and enjoy the freedom. That would be my best advice. Otherwise, I think you can't trust your devices over 45 degrees.
Yeah.
And then what about in chlorinated swimming pools? How does that kind of affect the CGM and readings?
So generally, they are watertight and waterproof. So generally, once you get out and you've obviously had a shower or something afterwards, they should be good to go. It's really just those temperature changes that you need to be concerned about more than anything. And the pumps, as I said before, are waterproof. So technically, the chlorine shouldn't affect them too much because it doesn't affect our skin too much. Having said that, I don't know that 100% for sure for the chlorine, but I don't think we're in there long enough or submerged in there long enough to
I guess when you start to feel like the chlorine's getting a bit much, then maybe you should get out.
That's right.
Because your CGM's probably feeling the same way.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to splash it on you when you were trying to fix up your swimming pool, but certainly not good for skin, but our skin can tolerate it at those sorts of levels.
Another one is when you're mid-hyper and unable to talk to people properly, what are some ways that you can explain the situation you're in without making it sound like you're dying? And this is something that I have struggled with. And to be honest, you don't care when you're that low. I've just let them believe that I'm dying for 10 minutes and then I'll come back and I'll explain it to you later. Just ignore it and just deal with the situation. But what are some things people can say, or especially when they're that low energy and can't really think straight? What are some things people could do?
So it's really hard when you are low to articulate what's going on anyway. So sometimes the way to help you to get through that situation would be to have some sort of identification on maybe the people that you're out and about with. I think it's always, if you feel comfortable to, I would always recommend that you have a wingman or woman with you so that they can do the talking for you. I know that doesn't always work. Some people I know have a little card in their hypo kit that they can just, they go.
Like a business card.
Like a business card.
Talk to me later.
Yeah, and some little tips for them. If I do this, because we know that all people living with type 1 diabetes are unique and will have their own ways that they can recognise a hypo or how they work through those hypos. So it can be a little laminated card or it can be whatever you'd like. You can never tell how people are going to react. People that have had experience with it, they're going to be more cool, calm and collected. But people that are compassionate and empathetic, of course, are going to worry about you. So
yeah, it can look quite scary. And I know mentally what's going on, but if I can't speak to you, you're going to freak out. So I can understand why people do freak out.
And your energies need to be just sorting yourself out. They don't need to be explaining to everybody else as well.
Yeah.
So that little card can be a bit, you can put whatever you want on it, but sometimes it's something too, if you're not comfortable to have a bracelet on that's in or in sort of identification, it can be in your hypo kit that you can just literally, it can be there. So people's got to have the visual when you're trying to sort a hypo out.
Yeah, I think super important that you mentioned that looking after yourself in that situation is the priority, and worrying about what other people are thinking or doing is not really number one at that point.
100% not, no.
Can reoccurring low BGLs do any long-time damage to you? Because I know that we often talk about highs for a long period of time, but what happens with low BGLs all the time?
So there's not any real recent studies that I could find, because I did have a look at this question. I guess the biggest concern that we've got about ongoing low glucose levels is anaesthetize your body to be able to recognising those early signs. So you can develop hypo unawareness, which we know can be quite debilitating for moving through your daily life. There is some indication that may have some impact in the long term on the way that your brain or your cognitive function, the way you think and react. But again, that's only beginning research. And everything that we've got, I just want to say all the research that we've got long term on complications, all of those things are based on people who didn't have good therapy like is available now, if that makes sense. Not the CGMs, not the good insulin. So I really am apprehensive answering that question, because what the research tells us and what the reality is of people like you that are moving through living with type 1 diabetes, your reality is going to be very different to, say, my dad who's 85 and has had type 1 diabetes. It's completely different, and even to the people in their 50s that have had type 1 diabetes for decades. So I would say that as we get, I'm not trying to sound like Pollyanna either, but I think things are much better than what they are. But lows are a problem, because I think we do know that they will create potentially this hypo unawareness, which is quite debilitating until you're really getting those signs of when you are really low, when it's too late often to help yourself.
So basically not enough research yet for us to be able to answer that.
And two, I hope they do research on your cohort of people.
A lot of research needed.
And they go, all that stuff helped. It's little things too. It's like sleeping better because you've got CGM that's going to wake you up. It's about being able to see trends and be able to address them. So being blind to what your levels were doing for 7 hours overnight and then having broken sleep because you were concerned, I mean, that's hard work.
Yeah, definitely. Another question is, my HbA1c has always been near perfect, but I always hear people say things will happen to my health no matter what when I'm older. Will I have health complications even though I look after myself?
I guess we don't know whether people are tissue paper or titanium in their own health careers. So that's really quite a loaded question. Not only will people have type 1 diabetes, but they might have high blood pressure. They may have other genetic conditions that they've inherited or their lifestyle has precipitated, or all of those sorts of things. So I think, again, getting back to that question about, we don't know with all of the tools we have in our toolbox now to give people to manage type 1 diabetes, hopefully their complications are going to be much less.
Good question though.
Yeah.
We don't have research on it. Good question.
There is research, but again, it's on people much older that have got a much longer type 1 diabetes career than what.
Yeah, and I mean, there's only been insulin for just over 100 years now, really.
True.
We don't really have much compared to other types of health conditions.
Yeah, I guess we've got to live so they can do more research.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Can't die too soon.
That's a really good plan. And decent insulins too. You think about how far the insulins have come to in the last, 30 odd years.
Yeah.
It's quite phenomenal.
And another one is, what are some ways I can stop myself from overcorrecting for a low BGL?
I am guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so guilty of that, because I think the point with that one is like the waiting game is so difficult, because you're saving your life, and to sit there for 15 minutes and go, just got to wait for these jelly beans to... No. And
remember that when you are experiencing symptoms of a low glucose level, it's your survival instincts that are kicking in.
Definitely.
It's not your thinking brain going, I must only have this many jelly beans because otherwise I'm going to be 9.
I've eaten some crazy foods. Yeah.
I don't care if I'm 29. I just don't want to be 3 anymore.
Yeah.
So it is really difficult. I guess what I encourage people is to think about something that is portion controlled, so that you're just going to have that amount. Because if you've got a bag of jelly beans, or you have got a popper that has got 30 grams of carbohydrate in it, your body is going to tell you to keep consuming until those hypo symptoms dissipate. So I guess that portion control thing, again, it's a challenging thing. All I would say is, if you do consume a lot of carbohydrate, you're just going to need insulin for what you've consumed over and above your recommended hypo treatment, which is either 10 or 15 grams of carbohydrate.
Yeah. So just as long as, I guess, that they're counting how much more they're having than they should for correcting their low, then.
Yeah. So if you had the whole bag of marshmallows, then you go, well,
take out 15 grams of the marshmallows and bolus for the rest.
That's right. And look, some people are experiencing now too that when they're having that 15 grams of carbohydrate, it's too much for them.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so really talking to people, whether your weight or your activity levels or what you're doing or when you need 10 or when you need 15 as well. There's nothing more frustrating when you've done the right thing too. And every time after a hypo, if you only have that 15 grams and you go higher as well. So that might be something that you could talk to
Didn't know that.
your diabetes brain trust about, whoever that is. Yeah.
It was always 15 grams. I was always told 15 grams.
Oh, I was never told 15 grams.
You were just told to consume.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I was always told if you're low, have 1 kilopython. If you're really low, have 2 kilopythons. That was what I was told.
But if
Super
kilopythons
strategy.
are out of stock at the shop, you're out.
No.
You're gone.
The soft chews, the fruit chews.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
Yeah. There's always a solution, trust me.
Yeah, and too, it's just the same as once your hypo symptoms settled enough that you feel okay, just try and sort out the rest. Particularly if you're on a pump, you've got that luxury of just being able to bolus for the extra bit. But I think it is very easy to overdo it because, again, you feel so awful.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, for joining us and giving your own insights. Do you have any other words of wisdom that you can give us before you leave?
All I would say is that it's, as I said at the beginning, it's really easy to draw everything back to living with type 1 diabetes. But remember, it's only a very small part of who you are. So your other health challenges and other things that you've got going on, it's always just to consider that your type 1 diabetes is only a slice, an annoying big slice.
We just spoke about this on the last episode. Yeah.
It shouldn't be the thing that you filter or the context that you use all the time for moving through your day. So, and remember, type 1 diabetes is, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir. It's a lot, and it's a lot every day.
It is a lot. I feel like I've said that so much. It is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a full-time job on its own. The things that you have to put into play all of the time and think about, and footloose and fancy free is a challenge when you've got type 1 diabetes. So I think you're all doing an epic job of navigating that space.
Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl.
When sourcing information online about your health, it's important you are getting the most accurate and correct details. So some questions you can ask yourself before trusting a source is 1, does the source include spelling or grammatical errors? So is the source logical, well-organised and professional in appearance as well? 2, is the information crowdsourced or vulnerable to changes by other authors or non-experts? So can people from the public just sort of make changes to it and stuff like that? Well, we're not going to name drop anyone. 3, has the author supplied a list of references for their work? Also, does the list of references include scholarly sources? It doesn't always have to, but sometimes that's something you should look out for. 4, is the information provided verifiable? So what does this source offer compared to other sources? 5, is the language or tone opinion-based, or does it contain facts and statistics? So is there some bias behind it? Is there some agenda that they're trying to achieve by you reading and agreeing with what they're writing? Or is it just purely states facts and statistics?
And always remember to consult your medical team for any information about your health. It's always great to look online, but your first port of call should always be your medical team. And to help you with that, we have some useful sources here. For more information, visit the NDSS Diabetes Use Zone website for the most up-to-date and evidence-based information. As we wrap up another episode of Life on the Level, we want to thank you for being part of the supportive community. Your stories, questions, and just being here fuel our mission to offer meaningful support and education to people living with diabetes. Keep the conversation going, stay connected, and remember, together, we're stronger. Don't forget to follow the show to hear more wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This podcast is brought to you by the National Diabetes Services Scheme. The NDSS is an initiative of the Australian Government and is administered by Diabetes Australia.
Diabetes Australia acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of this country. We pay the utmost respect to them, their cultures, and to their elders, past and present. We extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. Diabetes Australia is committed to improving health outcomes for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people affected by diabetes and those at risk.
All experiences and opinions described in this podcast are those of each individual guest. Your experience and management may be different.